Yes, Laura. On va vous laisser la parole dans quelques instants, on va juste lancer le débat avec quelques questions.
Alors peut-être une première question pour Desiree. Dans un premier temps, votre premier film, Appropriate Behavior, racontait l'histoire d'une jeune New-Yorkaise qui avait bien du mal à dire à ses parents conservateurs qu'elle était bisexuelle. Ici, vous faites le portrait d'une adolescente qui n'a finalement pas d'autre choix que de fuir pour mener la vie qu'elle a envie de mener, de films qui portent en eux un combat. Qu'est-ce qui vous a donné envie d'abord de raconter cette histoire et pourquoi avoir choisi le cadre des années 90?
Do you want to say it in English or?
So we're gonna give a microphone to the audience, but it's just the first question to start the conversation going. So with your first feature, Appropriate Behavior, it was about a young New York girl who had trouble dealing with the bisexuality since her parents were extremely conservative. And this film is about a girl who has no other option than to live her life. And I wanted to know why you wanted to tell this story, and especially why you wanted to set it in the 90s.
Well, the film is based on a book, and the book takes place in the 90s, but I also felt like it couldn't possibly take place in modern times because of phones and the internet and the connection that Cameron would have to the outside world, that there's something about being trapped in your tiny town in the 90s without the possibility of even a conversation or watching a YouTube video of someone who lives differently than you do. Even the movies that are out there are super limited. And your access to those movies is you have to go to the video store and look someone in the eye and say, yeah, I want to watch Personal Best, or I want to watch, you know, what they, Desert Hearts, and have that embarrassing exchange. It's like giving them a porno. So it was important to me that it remained the 90s.
En fait, c'est l'adaptation d'un roman dont l'action se passe dans les années 90. Et je pense que ça n'avait pas vraiment de sens de transposer dans le monde moderne, tout simplement parce qu'à l'époque, on n'avait pas de téléphone, il n'y avait pas Internet. Et du coup, on ressentait vraiment l'enfermement du personnage qui vit comme ça dans cette toute petite ville, qui n'a accès à rien, qui n'a pas accès à YouTube, qui n'a pas accès au monde extérieur. Et son seul moyen de voir des films différents, c'est d'aller au vidéoclub, louer des cassettes vidéo. Et ça a quelque chose de beaucoup plus transgressif, un peu comme si elle voulait regarder des films porno.
And also I'll say that this was this girl's first time meeting other homosexuals. So it was actually weirdly liberating. The most horrible place they could put her ended up being her salvation in a lot of ways. And she had never seen gay people in real life before, and this was her first time connecting. So it's very bittersweet, the fact that she ends up there.
Aussi, c'est sa première rencontre avec d'autres personnages homosexuels. Et c'est une expérience qui a un côté extrêmement salvateur pour elle. Et on voulait montrer justement la dimension douce amère de cette rencontre.
Chloé, est-ce qu'accepter de jouer un rôle comme celui de Cameron, c'est d'une certaine manière s'engager?
Yes. Do you think that accepting to play this part is in a way a commitment?
You know, I've had a lot of questions kind of in that vein, and you know, I think it's very interesting that people say to me in particular that this role is brave. And in a lot of ways I find that shocking to me because it's not brave for me. I'm an actor, and all I'm doing is portraying an idea of a story. But the real bravery is of the survivors that we met and talked to when we were trying to make this movie, when we were starting to make it. The people that we talked to that actually survived conversion therapy, those are the brave survivors. So for us, it was exciting to get a chance to tell a story that hasn't been told before, to tell perspectives that haven't been told before, and to give, hopefully, young gay people something that feels like they can grasp onto and they feel like they're adequately depicted on screen, which I think is rare, especially young lesbians. I think that's something that isn't fairly depicted in a lot of ways. So for us, it was exciting. I mean, it was incredibly exciting. So brave, I would not call it. Commitment, I would not call it. But an incredible challenge that excited me, yes.
Alors c'est intéressant parce qu'on m'a posé plusieurs fois cette question sur la notion du courage que ça demandait de jouer un rôle comme ça. Je dirais pas que c'est un rôle qui a demandé particulièrement beaucoup de courage, par contre c'est un rôle, parce que je suis une actrice, voilà, et n'importe quel rôle demande une part comme ça de courage, mais par contre je pense que les vraies personnes courageuses dans cette histoire, c'est les vrais survivants qu'on a rencontrés et qui sont passés par ces thérapies qu'on voit dans le film. Il y avait quelque chose d'extrêmement stimulant pour nous de raconter cette histoire parce qu'on avait l'impression qu'elle n'avait jamais été vraiment montrée. Et souvent, les jeunes homosexuels sont montrés de manière assez... avec beaucoup de stéréotypes, notamment les jeunes lesbiennes. Et pour nous, c'était vraiment stimulant, c'était vraiment un défi de montrer les personnages de cette manière-là.
Désiré, les codes esthétiques et narratifs du film empruntent à des formes comme les séries télé, des formes documentaires, quelque chose de très réaliste et à la fois très moderne. Est-ce que ce sont un peu vos sources d'inspiration visuelle? Comment avez-vous construit l'aspect visuel, l'esthétique du film?
I just want to, was it just like, what's the visual inspiration for the mise en scène? Can I just keep going? Yeah, okay, great. Visual, I heard many times, great. Okay, I will say...
So perhaps for the audience, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, for English speakers. Not like me, francophone.
The film borrows a lot to the aesthetic of TV series and documentary film, and we wanted to know what were your visual inspiration while making this film.
So I looked at CEFF by Todd Haynes, and I looked at Morven Collar by Lynn Ramsey. Those were two films that I specifically thought about for Cameron Post. I looked at the photography of Van Golden. We wanted it to feel found. We wanted to have natural light. We wanted it to feel like you were eavesdropping in, and at times in post-production it felt like they were too far away, sometimes at arm's length, that it was too composed, and so we kept making choices to find things that felt a little bit rougher, a little more handheld. And it all is a testament to Ashley Connor, the cinematographer who shot it. She has another film, yeah, ooh, applause for Ashley Connor. She has another film here that she cinematographed. That's not a word. That she shot. She was the director of So she shot a film here called Madeline's Madeline. It is supposed to be very good. I haven't seen it, but I highly recommend watching it. I think she's an artist. I think I wouldn't want to work without her anymore. I think what she brings to the table is a female gaze, and that's what I wanted in the film, and a sensitivity and yeah. I mean, you don't get sex scenes like that shot by men, and you don't get sex scenes like that without trusting your actors, and you don't get sex scenes like that without a cinematographer with a sensitivity and a empathy, and who's part of it not observing it. And sometimes when I watch, especially lesbian sex, you feel like I'm step away and I'm watching with my binoculars and my video camera.
Or it's super grotesque,
Yeah.
voyeuristic.
Yeah, you're a pervert, and instead I wanted you to feel like, no, you're with them, you're in it. You're a kid too, we're all in it, it's an orgy.
That's the tagline.
That's the tagline! I think we figured it out. It's an orgy, you're invited. You want to translate that for audiences?
Les inspirations visuelles du film, c'était deux films, CEFF de Todd Haynes et Morven Collar de Lynn Ramsey, mais aussi les photos de Nan Goldin. Et ce qui était très important, c'était de travailler la lumière naturelle, mais parfois, au moment du montage, on trouvait que ce qu'on avait fait était trop travaillé, donc on est allé vers une esthétique plus brute. Et voilà, il faut rendre hommage à la chef opératrice du film qui s'appelle Ashley Connor, qui a un autre film qui était montré dans le festival qui s'appelle Madeline's Madeline. Et c'est vraiment une vraie artiste, et surtout elle a apporté au film un regard féminin qui était vraiment essentiel, notamment pour toutes les scènes de sexe, parce que les hommes, les chefs opérateurs masculins tournent très différemment ces scènes-là. Et donc c'était important d'établir cette confiance avec les actrices, parce que souvent, quand on regarde des scènes de sexe filmées par des hommes, on a l'impression qu'il y a quelque chose de très de l'ordre du voyeurisme, on a l'impression d'épier un petit peu, comme si je regardais la scène avec des jumelles, alors que dans mon film, si tout se passe bien, c'est comme si vous étiez dedans, comme si vous preniez part à cette orgie. Et là, on peut dire que le slogan du film, c'est voilà, venez avec nous participer à cette orgie.
on whenever I speak in a meeting, I'll bring a French translator to say what I say, make it sound like a little sexier and a little like, I get 2 laughs, I get 2 responses, and it's basically like, Desiree, les hommes is voyeuristic, it's like the men, that men have a bad gaze, women have a good, feminine, good, home bad. Sorry, thank you for your service. The mic away from me.
C'est très difficile de rester sérieux avec vous. Mais quels ont été, pour clouer cette question, quels ont été les principaux défis pour vous de ce tournage, les scènes les plus sensibles à tourner?
Question for Chloe. What were the biggest challenges while making this film? And were there any scenes that were especially like sensitive while making the film?
You know, I think the entire movie, I know that's a cliche thing to say, but it was a massive movie to take on, for sure. And I think what was interesting for Desi and I both is I think Cameron took shape, because we shot the movie chronologically pretty much. And Cameron took shape on her own. And I speak about her in third person because it wasn't me. Like in any way, shape, or form, it wasn't Chloë Grace Moretz that everyone knows in any way. It was this being and this person, and she...
Your walk was different.
Yeah, I walked differently, I talked differently, I held myself differently. And we would watch the takes back and we would just kind of be like, I don't know what's happening, but something's happening. It's interesting. So in so many ways, yeah, you know, it was difficult, but it was also Cameron. And it sounds crazy to say it, but she was doing her own thing. And the relationships that were built throughout the process, you know, with Sasha Lane's character, with Forrest Goodluck's character, and the beautiful scenes about the iceberg with Jennifer Ehle, and the scene with the protective services when they came in, and she says the line, which I think was my favorite scene of the film, was when she says the line, you know, how is conditioning people to hate themselves not emotional abuse? And that, for I think us, was like the moment when we shot that scene, we were both very like, okay, that's what we're doing. Like, we're making this movie and it means something. So, yeah, Cameron was her own person. So I don't try to lay claim on her in a weird way. She's something that I clued into.
The hardest scene to shoot, not for Chloe, but for me. Do you want to translate, or how do we? Good, keep going. We got no problem. So we shot. It was amazing because it wasn't hard for you, but that's a testament to like Chloe's a professional. She's more experienced than everyone else on set, and you can feel it for this very reason. But we shot the most fun, excited, joyful scene of the film when everybody was crying. We shot during the American elections when Trump was voted into office, and I know, ooh, laughter. I've never gotten that. Usually people are like,
Friends is like,
oh god, it was not funny at the time.
It's not us.
Skeptical French humor I'm getting right now. You know? You're like, at least it wasn't our country.
Macron's like, not us.
We've
We
got a
didn't do
sexy
that.
young guy in office, a hot older lady girl.
Yeah, Macron's like, bye.
I know. Y'all don't have my problems. But we were shooting, and everybody was so confident that Clinton would win. And Chloe had worked with Hillary Clinton, and we had a party for the elections. And that morning during breakfast, it was the most depressing party I've ever been to. And I went to a lot of awkward theater rap parties in high school. So of depressing parties, I've been to my fair share. And nothing like high school theater parties to be a boner killer. But we had this huge party. Our financier was like crying with joy. He was like, my little girl's gonna grow up with a female president. And I was like, high five. And then an hour later, we were like, oh shit. No, she's not. And we were all a mess. And that morning, we had to shoot the scene where Cameron jumps on the table and sings What's Up, the For Non Blonde song. And I always wanted that to be this climax for Cameron, for her time there, for her friendships, for the movie. And we were heartbroken. And even Ashley, our cinematographer, who was like, you know, our guiding light, every day she had the most energy, the biggest smiles, the most fun. And she was not herself. None of us were ourselves. And we paused in the middle of shooting that scene to watch Hillary Clinton give her concession speech, and no one could stop crying. It was a mess. And I went back to the location and I just sat by the camera and I just waited. And 10 minutes goes by. And Chloe was the first person to come there and be ready. Like, you were, and it was like, snap back into it. It was, everyone else was a ghost of themselves. And every time Chloe jumped on that table and had all her energy, and it was just clear that this is a person who is focused on making the best possible film and who has all her energy here for the project. And we had to sweep aside how we felt because, I mean, also it was, to me, it was heartbreaking, but I was happy to be doing this. It felt like a direct response to exactly what our country was about to face. So it felt like rather than sitting home alone and crying, I get to take action.
Alors c'est vrai que c'était un personnage qui était incroyablement fort. Il se trouve qu'on a tourné en fait le film dans l'ordre chronologique et le personnage de Cameron Post a pris forme en fait par lui-même, c'est-à-dire que par moments j'avais pas l'impression que c'était moi l'actrice qui était sur le plateau, mais je remarquais que je me tenais différemment, je marchais différemment, il se passait quelque chose et c'était vraiment difficile, mais je voyais que je devenais en fait Cameron. Et donc il y a beaucoup de scènes, notamment la scène avec l'iceberg qui a été une scène vraiment tournant au niveau du tournage, même une scène avec avec le service de protection, et il y a notamment cette réplique qui est dite, comment est-ce qu'on peut, comment ne pas croire que forcer les gens à aller contre leur propre nature n'est pas une forme d'abus émotionnel. Et ça, j'ai trouvé que cette réplique résonnait vraiment avec le personnage. Et ensuite, donc, vous avez dit que Chloé est incroyablement professionnelle. Elle a plus d'expérience que beaucoup de gens qui sont sur le plateau, donc c'était extrêmement stimulant de travailler avec elle. Et il y a une scène qui est dans le film, la scène la plus jubilatoire, la scène avec le morceau des Four Non Blondes où ils sautent sur la table. Et en fait, cette scène a été tournée le jour de l'élection de Trump. Donc là, vous avez rigolé. Desiree a dit que le sens de l'humour français était particulièrement chelou. Vous dites qu'en France, vous avez un jeune mec sexy, vous avez échappé au pire, etc. Un jeune mec sexy à l'Élysée. Et en fait, on avait une fête, on faisait une fête pour les élections, pour regarder les élections. Chloé avait soutenu publiquement Hillary Clinton, on était persuadé qu'elle allait gagner. Et en fait, ça a été méga déprimant. Et je me connais en fait déprimante parce que je suis allé à beaucoup de soirées de théâtre au lycée, qui est vraiment quelque chose de super anti-sexe. Donc, on a commencé la soirée, on était très contents. Au fur et à mesure des résultats, c'est devenu vraiment déprimant. Et même Ehle, la chef opératrice, qui d'habitude avait énormément d'énergie, là, elle n'était pas du tout en forme. Et donc, on s'est tous assises, on a regardé le discours d'Hillary Clinton, et puis après, je suis retourné sur le décor, je me suis assis à côté de la caméra, et j'ai attendu une dizaine de minutes, et là, Chloé est arrivée, elle était prête à tourner. Et elle se sentait pleine d'énergie pour la scène, elle s'était vraiment dévouée pour donner le meilleur d'elle-même sur la scène, on a tourné plusieurs fois, et on était vraiment en fait contents de tourner cette scène, et on pensait que c'était la meilleure réponse artistique possible à la situation qu'on était en train de vivre.
Peut-être avez-vous des questions désormais? Oui, formidable.
Hi. First, I just wanted to say that the movie was incredible, and Chloe was amazing, like Zoe. I want to know what was your favorite movie? Sorry, it's okay. What was your favorite moment during the set? For both of you.
During the scenes?
Yes, not the set, all the sets.
All the scenes.
Yeah.
I know. I'll start.
Yeah, no, you go.
Oh, Chloe's sex in the car. Chloe's sex in the car. You could share the same favorite moment. But I remember I came outside. We had shot the prom that day. I love watching Chloe fake fuck. Chloe pretend to have an orgasm is like so much fun on set. And she does it like a champ.
I gotta go.
I'm like a mother, but like a perverted mother.
They all saw
there
it.
to embarrass you. Well, okay, you're very good at it. And so as a director who loves honest sex scenes, I was very pleased. It's so embarrassing for you. It's okay, I've done it too. So, when we were doing that scene, I came outside of we had shot prom all day, so we're in this high school in like upstate New York, very conservative area, and then we go to the parking lot, and the car is there, and the monitor's there, and the lights are there, and 40 people in the crew are standing around us, and the students, and they were like, great, Desiree, shoot your scene. And I was like, I want everyone to hide. And the first AD was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I'm sure. And he's like, I wouldn't do that for you. And I was like, good thing you're not me. And so we all hid. And I hid too in the school about 300 yards away. Oh yeah, I was eating. I don't know. I'm not ashamed. I don't remember that. I was stuffing my face and not directing. I was eating, apparently, according to Chloe. But we hid, and I told Chloe and Quinn, who plays Coley, exactly what I wanted. Ashley knew what I wanted, and I just let the three of them be alone. The focus puller hid underneath the car, and it was only the three of them. And I watched the monitor in the school far away, and I never felt this, it was just magic. It felt like I was watching something private, and I was getting gold, and I was so excited, and I never felt so much like a director than I did in that moment. And I didn't give her any notes or direction. We did a couple of takes, and it was just, and I felt like you just ran with it.
I mean, I will say though, that's a massive testament to you, Desi.
I'll take it.
Seriously though, I mean, I've worked in movies for a long time, and I've made a lot of different, I'm only 21, but I've done a lot of sex scenes in different movies. And I will say that this movie, I think the way that sex is depicted in it is incredibly integral to the progress of the movie, first of all. But the way that it was shot, the way that it was edited, it was obviously through a female gaze. It was not voyeuristic, it was not grotesque, it was not used to make you feel turned on. It was just to show you the intimacy and the level of real affection that was shared between these two people before it was jarringly taken away from them. And it makes the Coley letter later in the movie hit harder, because you saw that it wasn't a fluke, it wasn't silly. They truly did care for each other. I don't know if that answers your question.
But like, yeah, that clumsy craziness of the first time.
Yeah.
The sexiness and the intensity of the first time with someone you care about. Anyway, it was a really powerful thing, and it was so nice to give trust to someone and to have them prove you right. Would you agree? Your favorite time? I remember you had a good time. Yeah. Well, not like, I'm not saying like you had a good time. I mean, like, as an actor, you were enjoying it.
I was very happy with the product.
Yes.
La question à la base pour Chloé était quel était son moment préféré sur le tournage. Et en fait, c'est Désirée qui a répondu, c'était la scène de sexe dans la voiture. Parce qu'elle disait, j'adore la voir feindre des orgasmes. Je suis comme une mère, mais une mère un petit peu perverse.
It's true.
Not again. Go ahead. No, keep going.
En fait, on était sur le parking d'un lycée dans l'État de New York, au nord de New York, qui est un endroit assez conservateur. Donc on a garé la scène sur la voiture, la voiture sur le parking. Et donc on a 40 techniciens qui sont présents sur le plateau, et je leur ai demandé en fait d'aller se cacher. Moi aussi je suis parti me cacher, je regardais le moniteur derrière un buisson en mangeant des bonbons. Et en fait j'ai dit aux acteurs à l'avance ce que je voulais faire, et il y avait seulement l'assistant caméra qui était caché sous la voiture pour pouvoir faire le point. Et en fait, ce qui s'est passé pendant le tournage de cette scène, c'était vraiment magique. On a touché un niveau d'intimité qui était vraiment fascinant, et j'avais l'impression, en tant que réalisatrice, d'avoir trouvé de l'or. C'était vraiment un des moments les plus forts de ma carrière. Et on a fait seulement 2 prises pour cette scène. J'ai donné quasiment aucune indication. Donc là, Chloé a dit, ça fait très longtemps que je joue, même si j'ai que 21 ans, j'ai déjà tourné dans pas mal de scènes de sexe. Et en fait, cette scène... de sexe. En fait, cette scène, elle paraissait extrêmement authentique, parce qu'elle est très juste par rapport à l'évolution du personnage. C'est pas du tout une scène artificielle. Et l'intimité, justement, est très belle, parce qu'on voit justement des personnages dans leur intimité avant qu'on la leur retire. Et notamment après, donc, tout ce qu'on va entendre dans la lettre du personnage. Et donc ce qui était intéressant, c'était de montrer l'honnêteté des premières fois. La première fois, par exemple, qu'on fait l'amour avec quelqu'un avec laquelle on tient, à laquelle on tient énormément. Et donc c'était ça, et très contente du résultat final.
Une autre question dans la salle?
Hi. I feel like you've been talking about, a lot about the sex scenes, but I want to add some more. I think that was the first time I've seen a movie about a lesbian main character directed by a woman, and I could absolutely tell the difference.
Yeah.
So I want to say congratulations again on the My question is about the casting process, because I feel like there was a lot of, and that's such an overused word, but diversity in the casting, gender diversity, racial diversity, but also, and that's even rarer, body type diversity. And so I haven't read the book, so I don't know if it's just like an adaptation of the book, but like I wanted to ask about the casting process, because I feel like that's really rare in movies to see that type of diversity. Thank you.
Thanks. Do you have to translate the question? I don't remember. I'm not. Don't remember.
Donc déjà bravo pour le film. C'était, je pense, la première fois que je voyais un film sur des lesbiennes réalisé par une femme, et je trouve qu'on sent vraiment la différence, et je voulais aussi souligner la diversité qu'on trouve dans le casting, la diversité de genre, la diversité raciale, le fait qu'on ait comme ça des acteurs qui ont différents types de corps aussi dans le film, et ça paraît très rare.
So when we were casting, it was about finding the best actors for the role, and the only part that we were attached to because of the book being a certain race was Adam, who had to be Two-Spirit. And it wasn't, I felt like, oh God, the odds of me finding a teen Native American actor who's been on a set before, who's Two-Spirit, will be impossible. But we were like, okay, Native American. So he's not Lakotan, but Forrest Goodluck, who plays Adam, is Native American. And that was really important to me, that we then met together with Two-Spirits and went to the New York Two-Spirit community and talked to them about their experiences. It was important to me that everyone represented where they were coming from, and it was authentic. You know, you so rarely see Native Americans on screen, let alone Two-Spirit Native Americans. So if you don't remember from the film, Two-Spirit is, well, I mean, what they told me, which ended up being in the film, is, you know, they say Two-Spirit means like the male part of me is being battled by the female part of me. And I guess the most literal translation to the Western world would be, you know, trans. But I think it's genderqueer, I think it's more complicated than that, and it's also native, so it doesn't have its own classification. Yeah. But, and also a lot of the Native American actors that we spoke to weren't comfortable playing homosexual. So there were a lot of layers to that experience. I was very happy finding Forrest. Then everyone else, it was just who's the most compelling person. And it was really exciting falling in love with each of them, because I always saw it as an ensemble piece. And I never wanted to cast it like, okay, who's the gayest looking kid I can find? It was who embodies that type. And so it was really clear when we were editing, we brought on the second editor to work in conjunction with my first, and he was like, it's clear you guys love Helen, the one who sings karaoke. We were like, yes, and we love Helen. And so we really spent some time in the edit focusing on her, that she needed a moment to shine. Aaron needed moments to shine. Mark, everyone there, it was all of their story. It was an ensemble. So it was important to me that it looked the way that the world looked to me, which was biracial, which was, you know, fat and thin, and that there was an East Asian character there. I wanted it to look like the world as I knew it. And even being Iranian, I'm very sensitive to the fact that I never grew up seeing anyone with skin or a face that looked like mine on television, except for Not Without My Daughter, the Sally Field film where Alfred Molina abuses her. It was a very upsetting film that depicted Iran in a bad way. But otherwise, Iran is never on screen. So I always wanted to be like, okay, where are the minorities? Have you seen Not Without My Daughter?
Yes.
It's really upsetting.
It's really heavy.
Yeah, it's really bad. The film made me never trust Alfred Molina or Sally Field.
And I love Sally Field.
And I love Sally
And
Field.
I love Sally Field.
Anyway,
Anyway.
we should talk about sex again.
Pour le casting, l'idée c'était vraiment de trouver les meilleurs acteurs, sauf pour le rôle de Adam. Là, il y a une indication particulière, c'est que dans le roman, c'est un personnage qui vient de la communauté des Indiens d'Amérique Two Spirit, donc qui ont deux esprits. Et en fait, Forrest Goodluck, qui joue le rôle d'Adam dans le film, est un Indien d'Amérique, et ça nous paraissait vraiment important pour ce rôle. On s'est vraiment renseigné beaucoup sur cette communauté des Two Spirit. On les a rencontrés à New York, et en fait, on les voit jamais à l'écran, de manière générale. Les Indiens d'Amérique, c'est très rare, et cette communauté-là, encore moins. Alors, pour résumer assez rapidement cette communauté, on pourrait dire qu'en fait, ils ont deux esprits, c'est-à-dire que leur esprit masculin est sans cesse défié par leur esprit féminin. Et dans la société occidentale, on dirait que c'est des personnes transgenres, mais en réalité, je pense que c'est beaucoup plus compliqué que ça. Donc on voulait vraiment essayer de rendre justice à ce personnage. Pour les autres acteurs, on a simplement essayé de caster les acteurs les plus forts qu'on pouvait rencontrer, et au moment du montage, donner à chacun des personnages leur moment. C'est-à-dire que vous avez vu Hélène dans la scène du karaoké, elle a vraiment son petit moment. Même chose pour Marc. Leur histoire à eux est aussi extrêmement importante, et c'était important pour moi de montrer un monde, voilà, qui est multiracial, avec des gens qui ont différents types de corps. Moi-même étant iranienne, j'ai quasiment jamais vu des gens qui me ressemblaient au cinéma, à part dans un film que j'ai trouvé très frustrant de Sally Field, qui s'appelle Not Without My Daughter.
Une autre question dans la salle.
Good evening. We're living this times up moment in movie industry where we're seeing a lot of more movies talking about what gay people have to deal with. But this is one of the first movies that I see that I can see this approach through a girl, which is really nice. I really wanted to know if between you two, like, did you have any female inspirations to create Cameron character, or was something between you two, like have an inspiration of how would be the approach of how would she would walk, she would talk, she would deal with characters' emotion on her, because you can see that it's something really constructed. So I want to know if it was something created between you two, or there was some female inspiration.
I was all Chloe. I will say, as I was writing, this film was an ode to every woman I've ever loved. Weirdly, all from the South or Scotland. Super dykey, very athletic, had a lot of swagger. But that, I never told Chloe, I was like, you have to be every lesbian I've ever loved. So Chloe, how did you, but also I feel like you don't have to, I'm curious to hear what you have to say, but it's funny because it's not like, I cast my first film, and I remember these straight women would come in and they would walk and talk and they would act like a lesbian was to play like an alien. Like they turn the chair backwards and they have a backwards cap and they're like, yo. I was like, what do you think? Like lesbians look like everything, and all that was important to me was that she had swagger. And to me, swagger is like a swagger. Comment se dit swagger?
Swagger. Yeah, I think, it's what Desi said. It wasn't, we really didn't talk about it. It was just kind of like, I was like, I think I can do it.
Yeah.
And she was like, you can do it. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I can do it. And we just kind of, did it.
You were different in your body, you were different. Because she was an athlete, it was
we took my makeup away, we took my hair away from me, and we removed all the parts that would be typical to what I could fall into as like a typical Chloë Moretz role I've done before. So for me, it was, I read the book, I read the script. I'm a normal kind of, I think it's unfair to the gay culture in particular in a lot of ways to say that you have to be a certain way to be gay, to act gay. That's unfair. I think that I have two gay brothers. I grew up with two gay brothers, and they're as normal as anyone I've ever met. Maybe there are tendencies that people can call out as gay, but I think that is just a societal kind of construct. So for me, I just read the character on paper, and I performed Cameron as Cameron would be if she dated guys or girls or people with no gender. Like, I just performed her as adequately as I could, and as realistically as I could. I didn't try and be butch. I didn't try and straddle a chair and pretend that I have like, you know, some sort of thing, you know. I just was. I just was on screen, and I just fell in love with the women that I fell in love with in the movie, and I let it happen. And I think that's, you know, in terms of acting in general, that's all you really can do. Take the words that are being said to you by the people that are saying it to you, be it male or female, and try to respond as adequately as you can. That's it.
En fait, le personnage de Cameron ici est une ode à toutes les femmes que j'ai aimées, que ce soit des femmes qui venaient du sud des États-Unis ou des femmes écossaises. Je voulais pas en faire forcément une lesbienne très affirmée. D'ailleurs, j'ai jamais dit à Chloé que ce personnage était une ode à toutes les femmes que j'ai aimées, sinon ça aurait été une pression très forte. Et en fait, au moment de faire le casting de mon premier film, j'ai vu défiler énormément d'actrices qui étaient hétérosexuelle et qui jouait ce personnage de lesbienne un peu comme si c'était une extraterrestre. Et moi, c'était vraiment pas quelque chose que je cherchais. C'était la même chose dans le film qu'on vient de voir. Pour moi, elle devait simplement avoir du swagger, elle devait avoir de l'allure, c'est vraiment ce qui était important. Et donc en fait, j'ai demandé à Chloé, est-ce que tu penses que tu peux le faire et oui, en fait, elle peut le faire. Et en fait, la Chloé a dit que ce rôle était vraiment très différent de tout ce qu'elle avait fait avant. On a retiré le maquillage, on a retiré la coiffure. C'est un rôle qui est vraiment très différent. J'ai lu le livre, j'ai lu le scénario. Et je pense que ça peut être très injuste pour la communauté gay de les représenter comme des marginaux. Il faut vraiment les représenter comme des gens vraiment comme tout le monde. J'ai 2 frères qui sont gays et qui me semblent vraiment extrêmement normaux. Après, il y a certaines personnes qui aiment qualifier certaines tendances qui voient chez les uns et les autres de gays, mais je pense que ce n'est vraiment qu'une construction sociale. Et j'ai jamais abordé le rôle de Cameron en fonction de son genre ou de son orientation. Ce qui comptait pour moi, c'était de donner le rôle le plus réaliste et le plus juste, et pas du tout cliché. Et j'étais vraiment à l'écran à 100%, et je me suis laissé tomber en fait amoureuse de l'actrice qui jouait en face de moi. Et je pense que c'est vraiment la chose la plus juste que vous puissiez essayer de faire, c'est d'essayer de répondre le plus fidèlement possible à vos émotions.
Alors moi j'avais une petite question pour Chloé. J'aurais voulu savoir combien de temps vous mettez pour préparer un rôle et aussi si vous assumiez complètement d'avoir joué dans Movie 40 Folly.
It's getting so late. I don't blame you guys for leaving.
I get it. It's late.
It's hot, it's late.
So it's a question for Chloe. How long did it usually take you to prepare for a role?
Depends on how much time we're in prep.
Yeah, it
Usually actors
depends.
get
Like,
brought on pretty late,
we-
or sometimes not.
we got no prep, really. I mean, we had like 2 days of prep on this film, so, you know, on some bigger movies with more money, you get weeks. With these small movies, you get like a shotgun amount of time. It's like you sign on to the movie, they have barely $1 million to make it.
And a few
So-
weeks later, you were in it. You know, you were.
Yeah, we like
We
spoke.
cast Chloë Grace last minute. You know, it was. I thought we were gonna shut down production, and then suddenly, well, we weren't even in production. Like I'd flown myself out to New York, and I
Yeah.
was like, I'd like to make this,
Uh-huh.
and it was all happening very fast.
Yeah, and then I signed on, and then it just got its funding, and then we just did it. So I met Sasha and Forrest within 48 hours of going out to northern New York and shooting the movie. So, like I said earlier, it was all chronological, so we kind of took it step by step. It wasn't a movie that we had a lot of prep on, and I think that honestly kind of shows on screen with how off the cuff it all is, because it's not overly thought, it's not overly wrought either. So
And
it's,
they were getting to know each other as they were shooting, which I think helped. With each scene that they spent with each other, they felt a little more at ease and a little more comfortable.
oui.
Donc en fait, pour ce film-là en particulier, il y a eu un temps de préparation très court qui était de 2 jours. D'habitude, quand vous faites un film avec plus d'argent, vous avez des semaines et des semaines. Ici, le budget, c'était à peine $1 million. Donc, d'ailleurs, Chloé a été castée vraiment à la fin du processus. Le film était quasiment abandonné. Et en fait, voilà, j'ai rejoint le tournage, j'ai rejoint le projet, on a trouvé le financement. Et ensuite, j'ai rencontré les 2 autres acteurs, Sasha et Forrest, 2 jours avant qu'on tourne en fait. Et on a tourné chronologiquement. Et d'ailleurs, ça se voit, le film a quelque chose d'assez brut. Mais l'idée, c'était comme on tournait dans l'ordre, on apprenait à se connaître au fur et à mesure, comme les personnages apprennent à se connaître.
Je crois que l'heure est venue de la dernière question.
Hi girls. I want to know, do you think you will have impact with this movie? Impact about the gay community or something like that? I have no fucking clue.
Jeez. I would say, I hope so. You know, I think above the gay community, I think, you know, for the gay community, I think a lot of the time this will kind of be an echo chamber. And for me, I hope this kind of reaches across the aisle. And what I've been saying for a while is I hope that, you know, I hope people from the conservative side, from the far right, parents that might not agree with their kids being gay and coming out as gay, I hope this movie changes their ideals. I hope it might change the construct of their mind. And I think that's a testament to Desi and a testament to the movie and the way it came out, that it is comedic, it is likable. It's a movie that isn't like taking your medicine. So I hope it can kind of welcome people in with this like hug and handshake, and then kind of hit them in the stomach and be like, ha ha, you were so wrong about this, you're crying now, and now you see that you're born with this, it's not a choice. So I hope it's kind of like that, but I mean, fingers crossed. I honestly hope people just really enjoy it.
Yeah, me too.
That's as simple as that.
You never know. I
Yeah.
hope for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Donc la question est de savoir, est-ce que vous pensez que le film va avoir un impact sur la communauté gay? Donc Desiree a dit, j'ai aucune putain d'idée. Et ensuite, Chloé a dit, voilà, j'espère vraiment que le film aura un impact, parce que souvent, quand un film, parfois dans la communauté gay, les idées peuvent être un peu étouffées par cet esprit de chambre à écho, et il faudrait vraiment que le film dépasse cette sphère-là, et que ce serait très bien que des gens d'extrême droite, des gens très conservateurs, voient le film et que ça change vraiment leur façon de voir les choses. Le film a quelque chose d'assez plaisant, donc voilà, il a quelque chose de très accueillant, et puis en fait, boum, on leur montre qu'en réalité, l'homosexualité, c'est pas un choix, vous êtes nés comme ça.
Mesdames et messieurs,